Hi, my name is Adam Thomas, and I am the content creator here at Tree People.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Imhoff, and I am the Director of Program Development at Tree People.
And today we're going to be exploring the wrong tree in the wrong place and things to consider to make sure that you have the right tree in the right place when you're planting on your property. This one looks like it doesn't even have enough space. How do you consider that when planting?
Oh, well, Adam, the space a tree has to grow is the main factor in determining the appropriate tree species for a project site, right? And so we have to look at the width of the potential planting areas. So whether it's on your private property or on these public parkways, we have to, again, look to see, how large that tree is going to be. So for a lot of these parkways in our urban areas, they can't take large trees. They have to be smaller trees because, again, we have to consider what they're going to be at maturity. Some of the other things like overhead wires that we have to consider are like distance to gas or water meters. You have to have at least 6 feet are needed, right? So again, how far from this 6 feet, and then what that tree is going to be at maturity. Distance to utility poles or street lights. There should be, believe it or not, 20 feet needed. Distance to driveways and crosswalks is about 6 feet. Distance to fire hydrants, again, even 10 feet, because you have to consider what's underground as well. And so, again, these poor trees, wrong tree, wrong place, when they could actually be the right tree in the right place when we consider all of that.
Hey, Chris, so for our next tree here, this one looks like it's lifting up the sidewalk. What should we consider?
Oh, again, another wrong tree, wrong place. There are several reasons tree roots come up to the surface, right? And we've seen this all throughout the city, especially with the ficus trees, the Ficus microcarpa. That plus this one looks like a camphor tree. Both of those are known to have aggressive surface roots, right? And they also are huge and known to have large trunks. So again, one thing to consider is to be sure to choose a tree that isn't known to have aggressive roots, right? Another thing that brings surface roots up is poor soil conditions. So heavy clay or compacted soils that lack the air and moisture necessary for proper root growth. They cause these roots it kind of forces them to come up to the surface to find what they need for survival.
Chris, what do you see here? It looks almost like this tree's sort of been like cut in half up and down here. Like, what could have been done to make sure that this was the right tree in the right place instead of having to do this?
Well, Adam, just like the other image, this tree, it wasn't considered what this tree would be at maturity, right? And so I can't tell from the image exactly what the tree is. It kind of looks like a carob tree, which, it wants to grow tall, but it also wants to spread out wide. And in trying to do that, it's running into the building. And we see this all over the city, whether trees are planted up against fences, up against buildings. What typically happens is you'll go to the nursery and you'll purchase a tree that's young and has a trunk that's about 3 or 4 inches in diameter, not really thinking about what's going to happen when it gets tall and grows up. And so that's what's happened here. Somebody clearly planted a tree and did not think about that, what it would be at maturity. So in looking at this space, it doesn't mean you can't have a tree there. It means that you have to consider perhaps choosing a tree that may grow tall, but not as wide. So perhaps a ginkgo biloba, which can grow tall, but tends to be more skinny. They do get about 20 feet wide, and I can't tell how much space there is here. So you'd have to measure that to ensure that. But yes, another good example of wrong tree, wrong place. purely probably because someone purchased a tree when it was young and did not think about what it would be at its potential.
So for the next one that we're going to do here, we're going to change it up a little bit. So this one right here is a blank canvas in a sense. You know, there are no trees on this property. What are the things that someone should consider about how they can, or what they should plant? What goes into, you know, what goes into that thought process? Like, what are is there something with the soil? Is there something with like how a tree shades, like the house that could be beneficial? How can you really make sure that you are putting the right tree in the right place in the ground on your property if you're, you know, just starting to sort of figure that out?
Well, the great thing about this is that there's an opportunity to actually plant trees to save energy, right? To lessen your energy bills and to consider whether you should plant an evergreen tree that keeps its leaves all year round or a deciduous tree that loses their leaves in the winter, right? And so what you may want to consider is how both summer and winter sun affect your home and where it travels. So you're going to want to determine where the north side of your house, the south side, well, here. So if you're looking at an evergreen tree that keeps its leaves all year round, these are great for privacy. They're great for windbreaks. They're great for hot areas. What you want to do is plant those on the north side of a building, right? If you plant on the east, west, and perhaps in some cases, like with larger trees on the northeast and northwest sides of your home, you'll produce shade that minimizes the impact of summer sun and can get year-round greenery and privacy. What you'll want to do is avoid planting evergreens on the south side of the building, the southeast and the southwest of your home, as their year-round cover of leaves will kind of interfere with the natural solar heating in the winter, right? Costing you maybe more money because in the winter you want more of that sun to hit and warm your home, right? So when you're thinking about maybe a deciduous tree that loses their leaves in the fall or winter, plant trees on the south side, and for medium and larger trees on the southeast and southwest sides of your home to create that shade. Plus, let the winter sun in to help warm your home during those cooler months. So these are also great in terms of their fall color, which adds some great stuff to the landscape as well. You may also want to pay attention to whether you want to shade windows or your air conditioning units. That's another good strategy.
What are other things that people should consider when trying to find the right tree for their spot? Are there any considerations about, you know, soil, drainage, things like that that could really affect how a tree grows and the benefits that you get out of it?
Thanks for asking that, Adam, because it is important to consider, number one, your climate zone, right? So Sunset Magazine has some great climate zones for you to take a look at because you want to be sure that you're planting a tree that likes the weather that you live in. So for example, I know that there are some trees that do much better in the valley where I live, where it's hot, as opposed to someone who may live closer to the ocean, where there's a lot more cooler breezes, right? So you want to consider climate. Another is your soil texture type and how well the soil drains water. So we at Tree People, we have some great videos and how-tos that will show you how to determine your soil texture and how well your soil drains, because certain trees, as we've talked about earlier, don't do well in, say, a heavy clay soil. They need fast draining soils. You may want to consider the water needs of trees. We have some great charts that will show you whether it's a low water use plant, a very low water use, and there are some that are medium and actually high water use plants. So if you are planting a tree that doesn't like a whole lot of water in a place where there is sprinklers that go on every other day, it's not going to do so well, right? And so you'll want to plant trees next to each other that have similar water needs. Hope that makes sense. And again, as we've talked about, how much space do you have, and what characteristics you want, you know? And you want to consider, does it drop sticky fruit and flowers? So it's probably not a good idea to put it near your parking area or where your cars are, right? And again, what we've talked about, does it have invasive roots? Don't want that for your parkway. So again, these are just a few other things to consider.